Hello, what up?
Shalom, hello.
Hello, what up? May the pirate, aloha.
What's good, you sexy motherfuckers?
What up, sleuth?
Sorry, I'm not trying to say it out that loud because there's kids on the other side of the room. And, yeah.
What up, what up? Welcome.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to tell you something funny. So I walked in, said hi to the fam, bam, yeah. And it was really funny because before your son saw my shirt from the back, he's like, I really like your shirt. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. Do you know what shirt I'm wearing?
Yeah.
And I told your wife, I was like, oh, that's really nice of him. Hey, buddy, maybe face away while I'm walking away. Yeah, you might not like the back.
That's funny.
Yeah, I was like, uh-oh.
Hello, what up? Yeah, this is a gift, actually.
Oh, yeah.
This is a gift from Jayan, our previous intern that left to go back to Germany. So they came in from Germany. He went back, so he gave us a little goodbye gifts. He
gave me a Pichu pop, and I just like died a little inside.
In a good way.
In a good way, yeah, because I love pops and I love Pokemon, so that was like the perfect combo gift. Which, by the way, is today I was surprised with another one. I've been wanting to order one through Marcus, and like I want to support Marcus's business. If you guys like pops and stuff, like Marcus has a really dope of like really rare collectibles that he kind of like low key posts online. But I hit him about his Squirtle because he told me, he's like, oh, I have the Squirtle that matches your set. I was like, really? And I've been trying to order it from him for like 2 months, and it finally came in the mail. And I was like, yo, how much do I owe you? He's like, no, I forgot about your birthday. Like, this is for your birthday. I was like, you son of a bitch, let me pay you. So I'm going to try to DK him somehow. And if you guys don't know what DKing somebody is like when you go to a restaurant together and you pretend to go to the bathroom, but you paid the bill. You might have actually gone to the bathroom. That might have been a genuine part, but the actual motive behind it was paying the bill. Yeah. Yeah. So if you ever go to eat with DK, warning. But I got DK back one time. I knew he was going to try to pay the bill, so I told the servers it was his birthday, and he was blown away. I like pearls. Match the shirt. Are you just wearing an all-white shirt today?
Yeah, I am.
I'm not going to lie. I think this is the first time I've ever seen you in an all-white shirt.
No, I have like 7 plain white shirts, and I wear them all the time. I just haven't worn them recently because we got the Indonesia shirts, and I've been wearing them every day.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of sad by them. I wish they were printed better.
I'm going to leave your phone in charge.
Did they sing for his B-Day? Oh, yeah, they did. They actually did. They sang happy birthday for DK. They brought him a cake and a candle and everything. And this is exactly how DK reacted.
This is
Yeah.
true.
It was amazing. And it was at a friend's restaurant. So when
Mike's
I told
Mike's
him,
online. Hold on. What up, Mike?
Mike?
We can't hear you.
hey, it's Mike.
Can you hear us? We can't hear you. Hold on. We're going to switch over to the live stream. Hold on.
If you can hear me, smile. There we go.
Still can't hear you. Hold on, dog. Yeah, we should be able to hear you.
Also, this is kind of relevant. When are your mixed Mondays? And right now, and did times change? Oh, yeah. So on the mixed Mondays. So today, unfortunately, I'm not doing it. I actually got hired to mix some songs in person with a client, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I got hired, fortunately. But they don't want me to live stream the mixes. So use some feedback on. Cool. Yeah, I can help you out with that. I have been here in a minute.
Hello, can you hear us? We still can't hear you.
Oh, I thought I heard you for a second, though.
Nothing.
If you say a curse word, it might work.
Maybe if you just close out and join back in again.
Yeah, it's still Mondays at 6 p.m. right now I'm doing a lot of music from the label Forever the Family. I'm getting music from artists like Ishvital, Jacques, and them. Jalen may be popping back in for those really, really dope artists. So
Hello,
shout out to the
hello.
guys at Forever the Family. Yo, Mike.
Oh, okay. You know what? If I something's going on with my routing, if there's no audio, is it really audio engineering?
Yeah, right.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. I think what I think is going on though is I think the audio from that you guys are hearing is coming through my built-in webcam. I'm not
Yeah, it
sure.
is. It doesn't sound like
Yeah,
it's coming through the mic.
Okay. Um, I
sounds.
I I imagine it doesn't sound great, but there's something I'm not
Actually, it doesn't
sure.
sound horrible. It doesn't sound horrible. It's okay if we live stream like this.
Okay, and I
But
can
if you
still
record your
record.
own voice, yeah, if you can
Yeah,
still
yeah, I can
record your own
still
voice,
record
this is
that.
actually, yeah, then this is good enough.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
Something's
that's
going
okay.
on with my routing on the back end, and I just
No worries.
no.
Shit like this always happens. There's no problems at all.
How y'all been?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Yeah, us too. We're. Hold on. Can you keep talking? I'm just trying to get the level.
Yeah, they're saying your beard game
Yeah.
is crazy.
Keep talking. Just introduce
Yes,
yourself
sir.
or
Yep,
something.
yep. I'm Sendai Mike. I'm a recording and mixing engineer in Seattle, Washington. Mostly do rap, hip hop, pop, R&B, just like contemporary vocal genres over in the box production, pretty much.
Nice.
Keep talking one more time.
Just out of
Keep
curiosity,
going.
do you use
Yep.
any product for your beard? Are you a beard product kind of guy?
I have historically, but these days I'm just letting it get kind of wild.
Like, what's the craziest thing you've done for your beard? Like, because I'm not gonna lie, like I've done the beeswax thing, and it worked out pretty nicely. I did enjoy my beard for that, but it got kind of expensive.
Oh, damn, beeswax?
Yeah, it's not cheap. I received it as a gift, and then I was like, okay, I'll
Okay.
try this for like 3 months and like see how it goes, because like the thing was for like a month, and I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, this is nice. Like my beard was shiny, it was more kempt and everything. But then like when I stopped using it, I was like, oh, that's how wild my beard gets. Gotcha. Now I see the difference. But then I looked at it and it was like $30 a jar. I'm like, damn, $30 a month just to have a clean beard. I could just shave it.
Anyway, welcome to the stream. Everybody say hello. We got like 10 people in the stream right now. I don't know. Hold on. I don't know if you remember Band Reject who was on here, but he wrote a song that's dope. Anyway, thank you for letting me know. So reminder, you're pretty clear. Yeah, it's SM70 for appearance. SM70 just for appearance. Yeah, and recording on your own. So then you just send me the audio file afterwards. Got to go back to work. See y'all soon. Bye, May, the pirate.
May the pirate. That's awesome.
Cool beans. Okay, sweet. So we should be good. At any point, we're about to start recording. So anybody in the chat right now, if you ask any questions or whatnot, we may not be able to answer based on if it's relevant or not, because we are going to release this as a podcast episode. And
Love you too,
so
Brayden.
I just can't get super distracted. But that being said, if you ask relevant questions, maybe you can actually help move the podcast in a direction which may be really cool for the audience that will be listening. So general things, Mike. So this is not an interview podcast. We'll talk here and there about you and kind of like
Yeah.
how cool you are, but this is mostly like an educational platform. So
Totally.
something that you want to talk about or you want to teach. I know in the past you said something about like communication. Communicating with clients and whatnot. That is a common topic that we get a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I'm wondering
yeah.
if there's a specific aspect of it or if there's like other ideas as well that we can use that can, because we've talked a lot about like communication, so I just don't want to keep it general. If there's like a specific thing within that.
I'm kind of curious. I don't know if you deal with this a lot because you're in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
What about communication with new clients as far as like when working remotely? Because when people are hiring remotely, sometimes they look at the location as a factor. Is that ever something that comes up in your communication?
In terms of the actual physical location.
Yeah, like when they're
the
like,
work
oh, we
remote,
have
just
an
being remote in
LA-based
general.
engineer, a Nashville-based engineer, and then like, does your location ever come up as like a question for people when you're talking to new
Not
clients?
Not really. I mean, I think I tend to, I don't work with a lot of artists that are in like major market cities. I'm working with people who are out in the middle of places where they don't have access to, studios
Where
and engineers.
Mhm.
what percentage of your clients best estimate is in person versus not in person?
I mean, I think historically it's been about 80-20, 80% in person. I think right now I've just been leaning a little bit harder into just the in-person sessions, but in the long run, I think I'm trying to, work more with people all over the place. But it's probably been historically about 80-20.
And is your clientele mostly coming from online or like through word of mouth, or do you have like a SoundBetter or a Fiverr or something along those lines, like an
No,
internet
no,
based?
I have no sound better, or it's all just through word of mouth and social media.
That's dope. And you've been working on social media for. This is all questions that I could be asking on the stream, but I'm trying to figure out what
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
specifically we can talk about for the
Um,
episode here, because it's most likely going to be clicked on as well if we talk about
yeah,
something
yeah.
slightly different.
I mean, I think like communication, just like is a good like broad
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to get a little bit
premix
more.
communication, premix communication, super important, and then also interpreting the communication style of the artist, because what I find, everybody, has different ways of communicating, and so being able to adapt your communication systems and the way you communicate with people, just to best serve them as individuals,
What
is
about
something that I think a lot about.
what about so you got communicating. How do you feel about like communicating as far as like content creation and in that sense, like communicating in a macro sense?
Oh yeah, it's that's an interesting one that I do think a lot about. I'm not sure how useful. It's one of these things where, like, I guess in the sense of creating content and communicating ideas, so much of it is based on trying to get the post to perform rather than actually be helpful. So it gets kind of complicated, and so it's such a balance of maximizing performance while actually providing real value, not just the dopamine hit. But you got to do both.
Can we talk about that, or would you feel
Oh
comfortable
yeah,
talking about that?
definitely. I mean,
So
I'm by no means an expert, but I would love to get into
so
that for
maybe we'll
sure.
we'll keep it about communication. I just don't want to get too general with communication because we talk about communicating with clients and
Yeah,
how that affects it
yeah, yeah.
quite often. So
Yes.
I just don't want to like have too much repeat content. Either way,
Totally,
we're
totally.
recording content that's going to come out probably within a couple months. Like it's not going to be
Okay,
anytime
okay.
soon that the episode will come out. So we'll probably space it out correctly as well. But what up, Braden in the chat? But anyway, let's start recording. We'll sync up so like when you start recording, we'll like kind of do like a 1, 2, 3 clap type thing.
Okay. Set up here. Cool. I'm rolling whenever you guys are ready.
We are rolling too, so let's sync up real quick. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay,
Dope.
and I'll start us off. Do you have a nickname you want to use? L nicknames for Lou.
Let's see. Sexy Librarian Lou.
Okay. What up, Hooli? Okay, here we go. So we're gonna start now. Hello and welcome back to the Mix of Music podcast. I am your host, DK, and with me, as always, is by high recommendation by the man himself, the sexy librarian Lou.
I'll take it as I chose it because we didn't know what else to say. But you know what? I'm flattered that you said it out loud, so I'll take it. As on my website, I'm going to use the quotes area. I'm going to put DK, Sexy Librarian Lou.
Yeah, there you go. And then it was funny because right before we started playing, I rarely ever ask Lou what he wants his nickname to be, but that was the nickname. He's like, I said, what do you want for your nickname today? And he thought about it. He said, Sexy Librarian Lou. And I was like, we're going to go with it. That's
Yeah.
what it is right now. And today we have a very special guest with us all the way from Washington, Sendai Mike.
What's up?
What up? How you doing, Mike?
Good, man. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm a big fan of the pod, and it's really an honor to be here chatting with you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great. We've been needing to get you on for a while. So Mike, quick backstory as far as our relationship goes. We kind of got to know each other more intimately. Uh, uh, that sounded really bad. Platonically, more intimately. In not trying to misconstrue anything.
I
When
don't mind.
when
No.
I think you had just finished reading. Think and Grow Rich or something like that, and you were talking about masterminds and wanting to have a group
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. On
like-minded.
Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, and you invited a few people, including me, to do this like online mastermind thing with a bunch of other like engineers that were creating content and doing things. That's how we kind of met officially. I'd known of you before via Twitter and other social media stuff. And we met up every week for a while for like a good solid year and a half. And then I moved, then Shane moved, and we all kind of did a KBB thing out here in LA when you came out for a minute. Mike is a really dope engineer, a really great person, very thoughtful person. I think extremely intelligent and kind. And I'm really, really glad that you can be here on the podcast to share with us to give us a little bit taste of your vast knowledge that I'm sure that you have, and I know that you have. So let's talk about today's topic. Today is about communication. We talk a lot about communication in various different episodes. There's a reason for that, and I know most people want to hear about technical things, about how to use a compressor. So if you want to learn more technical details, guess what? The Mixing Music Podcast now has exclusive subscriber-only episodes. You pay $4 a month, and it unlocks 2 more episodes a week. So instead of once a week, you get 3 episodes a week, and 2 of them are only about technical things. How to use compressors, how to arrange, how to produce, how to master, blah, 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 from various different people and guests. And we take clips from many different engineers. Like I think we took clips from Leslie and Dave Pensado and many other engineers about specific technical details. So if you're interested in that, go to mixingmusicpodcast.com/exclusive. It will unlock all of the exclusive episodes for only $4 a month. So that's less than about a cup of coffee, 1 cup of coffee a month, and you'll get subscribed. And we have a bunch of subscribers already. Thank you for everybody that already is subscribed. Okay, I think that's enough about that. But anyway, communication, super duper important. I think it's one of those things that can make or break your career, and people don't want to admit it, especially those that haven't quite figured out how to make this into a more full-time career. It's usually the communication game. So
Yes.
let's talk about this, Mike. You're the one that requested you want to talk about this. Why is this so important and something that you think about quite often?
It's really like, when I started mixing, I don't think I understood how important and you guys have talked about this so much already, but I didn't understand how important the communication side of it was in working with artists. And it's something that I think a lot of people, especially in terms of communicating not just with your clients but to potential clients through the content, it is so crucial for building a career in audio. You have to develop those communication skills to be able to talk with potential clients or clients you're working with, as well as potential clients through your content. And I just did not anticipate that going into this, that would be such a crucial part of actually, getting your career off the ground.
When was it officially that you started noticing in your career? Like, what point in your career did you start to take focus on that?
I think it was when I first started really making content, which was probably around 2018, and just realizing how much more work you can get by effectively communicating ideas about engineering and creating songs through the content. That's when it kind of clicked to me. Is like, I have to be able to make content, and I have to be able to communicate ideas effectively and clearly, and in ways that people that don't have the technical background can understand and relate to. But it was really through through making content, I think, that those ideas started to crystallize for me, more so than actually trying to communicate with people I was working with directly.
No, that's cool.
You guys are both, I consider you guys to be both very like highly sort of, I would say highly evolved communicators with the podcast. It's it's interesting to me, now making content, the difference between the short form and the long form. And that's, I don't know which direction you guys want to go in talking about this specifically, but there's definitely different strategies, I guess, for retaining people and also getting people interested.
Yeah, let's talk about those strategies. And because there are many like practical things that both Lou and I do or have done, that kind of retains clientele, or
Yeah.
how do you say, makes them happier, or ways to over deliver that are more emotional than they are of actual physically demanding, you know?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what are some specific scenarios where, let's talk about mistakes first. Like, has there ever been a specific mistake or something that you've done that you realize now in retrospect that you could have communicated a little bit better that would have helped the client have a better experience?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the biggest mistake I think that I still come across is just not asking the client, or being clear about what the client's expectations are, because so much about the communication is about meeting the client's expectations, and I have to make sure that I understand their expectations from the start about what's going to happen in the session, or what's going to happen through the process of actually delivering a project. And if you don't ask those questions beforehand, you're not going to meet their expectations. It doesn't matter how well you actually do the work. It's just really really important to get ahead of that. And everyone's expectations are different. In working with sessions, just day to day, especially in rap, there are some people that expect to finish 2 songs in an hour, and their expectations for what's going to happen and how we're going to work are very different than the people whose expectations are, we're gonna spend 4 hours recording, then I'm gonna come back for another full day and mix. And yeah, if you don't, I always say in audio, we're in the business of meeting artists' expectations, and it's just super important to know what those are before even getting started.
I think you're right because, honestly speaking, between a few of my clients, like I've had situations where, like with specific artists, they want to work together because they already have a good relationship with me, sure, and that just means that we kind of have an understanding of the expectations already built in. But anytime I take on a new client, if we don't have that communication, there's pretty big odds that it's just not going to go well. Just because
Right.
you can have a situation where somebody thought that part of mixing was rearranging the music, or they thought that
Right.
part of mixing was vocal tuning and things of that nature, but that's not really the case unless you talk about it and you say, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I can help you out with these things. Or if it's so much work, okay, well, I'll have to charge you for X amount. And
Yeah.
I've had situations where, because there's a misunderstanding of what mixing is or what mastering is, people will hire you for a job, you'll do it, and you'll execute well on it. But because the level of understanding between the two is not there,
Right.
it doesn't matter how good you are.
I want to pivot the episode a little bit. And I want to talk about, on the remainder of this episode, let's talk about expectations and setting expectations with clients. I think that specific aspect of this is incredibly important and something that we have not talked about. So, real quick, we kind of preface the importance of setting expectations and how important it is to make sure that the client is coming in with the proper expectations, or figuring out what their expectations are and changing our services to kind of fit their needs and their expectations. Let's talk about, how do you qualify new clients that you've never met before, or friends that you've known previously but have never worked with you on a professional level? Do you have specific questions that you like to ask, or onboard them through a specific system or something to kind of get them to sit better with expectations, or to, get to know their own expectations?
Yeah, that's a great question, because this is something that I don't have any hard systems around this, and I do pretty frequently get cold bookings where I'm going downstairs to work with somebody new, and picking them up from outside to bring them in. And I've never met them before, never talked to them before, have no idea what we're going to do today. And so the first thing I always ask, when I'm bringing them in the elevator is like, what are we getting in today? And then, whatever they answer, that kind of, gives me the idea of what's, how the session is going to play out. And if they say something crazy, like I'm trying to record 9 songs or something like that, I'll just let them know, what a reasonable amount of work we're going to actually get done. And so, yeah, I don't have any hard systems for that when working with people in person. Remotely, though, I do have a much more, I guess, rigid sort of format, which I wouldn't say rigid, but clear and concise parameters, which I communicate to them before we start.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting. How many of your, out of 10 clients that you have within a specific, your next 10 clients, how many of them are probably going to be brand spanking new?
Ooh, not a lot. I mean, most of the people that I work with, I probably work with
at least once before?
Usually about a dozen people a week in all said and told throughout the sessions. Probably 10 of them are returning and I have a previous relationship with. And there's probably 1 or 2 a week that I've never worked with before.
So around 10% are consistently going to be new people, totally new.
Yep.
Has there ever been a time, what about the idea of for example, I know that you work in Ableton in a commercial location and you mostly work on hip hop, right?
Yep.
So has there ever been times where someone wanted to, without talking to you ever, they just wanted to record live drums, or they were a folk artist or something, just totally, we're not even talking about miscommunication of expectations within rappers, but someone that's totally off base. Oh, I thought we were going to do
a full live punk band.
Yeah, Foley. I thought we could do Foley here, or whatever it is.
Yep. I do occasionally. On the website, it's pretty clear. So before people book, it's pretty clear that that I just offer vocal recording services. But I do get people occasionally coming in brand new that are expecting me to actually produce them in the traditional sense of building up the instrumentation. Once in a blue moon, I'll have somebody coming in and be like, "So, I want you to make me a beat," and that happens very rarely. And when it does, I basically tell them that, we're going to go to beatstars.com and find you a beat to record the demo over or something like that. Cause I don't, I can't. So it's pretty rare that I get a mismatch like that. But when it does, I'll also just offer people a refund. If they're coming in wanting me to do something that I can't actually do for them, I will just offer them their money back, and I'm not going to try to give them something that I know that's not going to be good for them.
That's interesting. I mean, I think that talking about systems, your website is a system in itself. People will see the branding that you have, your social media, whatever you're posting content. People will see, okay, I can tell that this dude does hip hop vocals and mixing. People aren't going to be hiring you like a folk band or a death metal band. They're not going to come in with their whole drum kit and everything, because from the places where they can book you, get access to, they'll see, this is the type of services that they require. So it's it's a system of a way to self-qualify themselves. Lou, have you ever had any similar experiences where people just came in with the totally wrong expectation, and how did you figure it out?
To be honest, it goes back to having a network. We talked about this, growing your network and how that can affect your business, and just having more people around you that you can trust to do different jobs and everything. I remember I once got hit up asking for a producer. I called DJ Ice. He was there in 30 minutes. I remember I got asked for a vocal writer. I called a writer. They were there in 30 minutes. Everybody's hungry for work, and if you have a big enough network of friends that you can call that you trust, that are professional enough, if it's within your range to get the job done, but maybe you're not the best professional for it, ask them if they have a budget to hire somebody who is, or see if you have enough in your budget to split the difference with another professional and put money into somebody else's pocket. Not only do you help somebody else that could have used some money, but you found a new potential client that's going to look to you as a resource for connecting the dots in the future. And then you can communicate, hey, just so you know, like, I don't typically do this. I'm willing to split part of my cost for today with the person that could possibly do this for you, but it's an added fee in the future. But I'm willing to take care of you on this one as a first time and only time mistake kind of thing.
Totally.
But it's actually helped me out more to call other professionals and refer them to somebody else if I'm not able to do it, because at the end of the day, instead of giving them a refund, I'd rather re-navigate that money to somebody else who could better suit them. And because of that, you become the point person for their, I guess, need for better information.
Totally. Yeah, I do refer a lot of people to other studios, either bigger facilities for, tracking instruments or that sort of thing, or even just studios at different price points. I send a lot of people other places if they're looking to just do higher volume, lower cost work. It's always nice to be able to just spread the work around a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that there's, for me as well, I'm going to kind of change the subject a little bit, but I do have a few systems now that I'm remembering. Like, for example, right now, if you go to mixingmusicpodcast.com and click on the free stuff tab, you can actually download a couple of them. One of them is a mix prep guide. So I have a PDF. Whenever I have a new client that sends me stems for mixing, first off, there's a whole qualifications thing and how I qualify clients when they email me, visit my website, and then submit a form to email me. We'll get into that in a second, but let's say someone DMs me and bypasses my traditional email website where they can see my branding, my clientele, and things like that. What I do is, the first thing I do is I send them a mix prep PDF, which is 9 steps and a bunch of other things of like, okay, if you have plugins that you're not using, or like how you prepare stems, how you do all this stuff, setting expectations, make sure to communicate if you need instrumentals before we get started, payment things, whatever. If you want to download that PDF and copy and paste everything and make it your own, I give you full permission. Anybody that's listening right now, you can do that. You can just go to mixingmusicpodcast.com and click on that. But that's one way that I do things. I mean, even with the onboarding thing, I'm sure that you have an onboarding as far as like setting up scheduling sessions. Like Mike, what software or web app do you use for bookings?
For sessions, I just use Acuity. I've been using it for the entire time I've been here.
Yeah, same. I love Acuity. So you can, anybody that's new to this, that's interested in finding a scheduler for their website, if you're booking sessions per hour or by the hour, Acuity is amazing. Now, I don't use Acuity for my personal work because it's not a per day, per hour set thing. It's just mixing whenever I can.
Yeah.
So like mine is like an email onboarding thing. But in my emails, I say like, how many songs do you need? Tell me about the song. Why are you looking for a mixer? Or like, what are you looking for specifically in the song? And what's your budget? It's a very slow. I mean, it's much more difficult, and the user experience is not as good compared to like, okay, click, check out, boom. But mine's also a lot more personalized, and I don't get a lot of clients that aren't ready to take that extra step of communication with me. Now, with Acuity, you have a form where when they sign up, they still have to fill out a little, not questionnaire, a survey or questionnaire?
You can add additional
what kind of questions do you add for whenever people book?
Not nearly enough. Just how'd you find out about the studio, basically.
Why is that? Okay, actually, let's talk about that. Why is that important to ask why they heard about the studio? Where they
it's just good for me to have a finger on sort of where everybody's coming from, because I run Google ads. I'm pretty active on social media, and I'm pretty well established just locally. So there are, there's sort of those 3 main sources, and I just like to have tabs on generally where new people are coming from. But now that you mention it, I probably should add a few more forms on there in terms of what we'll actually be getting into in the session, just to get myself a little bit more prep before they come in.
I'll be honest, I actually don't add any questions. I actually have an auto response for after they book that has a link to a Google form that they can fill out.
So after they book the session, they get a form. Yeah,
the reason being is this. I can always close the deal and ask questions later, and that may not be as effective in weeding out certain types of clients, but most of what they can book me for on Acuity, for instance, is either recording time or lessons or consultation. which you can always cancel. It's usually not on the spot or time press. Like, I need this by tomorrow. Usually my
Right,
thing
right.
is you can't book me within 48 hours. You have to book me 48 hours in advance minimum. So I have enough time to actually cancel it. But on that form, it actually says, what are you looking to get into? What do you need done? How did you hear about me? It has all the things, and then that will populate another email with, here's a link to all the files. Here's what they want done. Here's their expectations. And usually they fill that out within 24 hours of booking. So, you know, it's kind of an automated system with the Acuity one. I noticed that they have to fill that out before they even pay. So the reason I didn't do it with Acuity is because I wanted to lessen the amount of barriers or the amount of traction between clicking a date and checking out.
Yep. No, that's really smart, man. I might have to start building out a little.
Just send me a DM. I'll show you the ways to the goodness of life.
Yeah, I think
I'll show you the library.
For me, I have to have a lot of systems for this sort of stuff because I'm very picky, probably more than I should be. And this is not something that I don't want people to misinterpret what I mean, but I say no to like about half the people that reach out to me, or at least I like pass them off to somebody else for various reasons. Sometimes due to budget, or sometimes due to like improper expectations or genre differences or whatever it is. Sometimes it's the right song, but I just don't feel like I could do justice, and I know someone else who has better taste in that sort of genre, that sort of music style. But whatever reason, and I just don't want people to misinterpret and say that like I hate most people that hit me up, and it's not anything like that. But with my high levels of boundary, where I also don't want to do too many songs for mental health reasons, it's super duper important for me to like qualify and like also try to ask the right questions. There's been so many times where I start working on a project with someone and then I accidentally burn them, not because I did anything wrong, but because genuinely there was just a misinterpretation or non-communication of an expectation that they had. That I just didn't even know that that's what they want. It's like, oh, we were hoping you were going to vocal tune this 1-star review. And I'm like, I didn't even know you wanted vocal tuning.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, give me a chance. Like, I mean, what kind of like classic mic questions, like what kind of questions do you like to ask when you meet clients for the first time? It sounded like you said like, what are we getting into today? But have you ever had an opportunity to like ask deeper, get to know clients much in a much more intimate setting, like going out to get coffee or something like that has helped?
Well, I guess just going through like the general questions that I ask right when I'm getting to know somebody in the session, the things that I always ask are, how long have you been making music for? How much have you released? These are just like data points for me to sort of start filling in who I'm working with. But then I think the most telling thing is like, who are your biggest inspirations, like artistically? And that usually tells me more than anything else in terms of what I think I'll be needing to do in the session. Because that really, like, if somebody tells me like that basically tells me what I need to know, about what we're getting into. And people get really passionate, when they start talking about their favorite music, and so I can kind of see why they like that artist, and that will tell me, kind of inform the mixing decisions and the workflow decisions. Like if somebody tells me, like I just had a guy in a couple days ago, he's from Stockton, but up in Seattle now, and he says like his favorite artists are like Mozzie and EDK, and like, so I just know it's like we're doing West Coast stuff. We're going to be doing a lot of punches. He's going to love like stutters, beat chops, like just from him telling me like what he likes, it just, and I just kind of interpret that from there.
Do you ever like study up on a genre or a group of artists or something before a client comes in? Like if someone says, I like this sort of stuff, and like you have to study or like kind of get familiar with something before someone comes in?
A little bit. I try not to too hard though, because what I find when I do that is I start focusing on things that maybe they weren't focusing on about it. If somebody tells me, "Oh, I really like," like if I study it too hard, rather than just listening to it, I might pick up on things that they don't necessarily actually want. If I think about it too hard from a technical standpoint.
So you kind of keep it.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
very, very, yeah, because I got to remember they like this artist not necessarily because of the mix but yeah, they like it for different reasons maybe than I would interpret as a mixing engineer.
I had to agree with that today because I was doing a lesson this morning with one of my students and friend Brandon, and I'm not gonna lie, I learned something about an artist today that I'm not gonna lie, the song's been out for years. It went Billboard #1 and everything, and I never noticed, but there's a bad note in it vocally, like it's just flat, and they didn't even try to fix it. Like you could tell, it's naturally just off, and like I picked it out really intently today. Like it just stood out like a sore thumb to me for some reason today, but never before did it. And it's like we're talking about Billboard #1, and yeah, me and him just kind of looked at each other like, did you hear that? And he's like, no, what? I was like, you didn't hear that? He's like, no. I'm like, reverse. Played it for him. He's like, no, I don't hear it. And I'm like, cool. I picked it up so quick now that I was trying to listen to it technically because we were talking about mixed things, right?
Yeah.
But I was talking about like from a musical standpoint, like, oh, like backing vocals for this artist tends to be like thicker and blah 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 and this and that, like trying to be analytical to talk about like how to approach a mix that he was working on that he was referred to for that. Yeah, honestly, I was overthinking it in the moment because I'm like, this song went Billboard #1 and nobody cared that there was a bad note in it.
Yeah.
Nobody cared, and it was like an isolated moment where like the vocal was the only thing really going on in that moment.
There's coming back to the idea of like setting expectation and questions. There's a producer that I work with that we know, and what he likes to do, he tells me he's a producer, so he's not just a mixer. Like it's more in depth. He's
Sure.
needs to get to know the client in person. He says that as much as he possibly can, he likes to take everybody out to lunch before he accepts any payment, before he accepts any project.
Oh wow.
And ask the same questions. What are your influences? What do you like? What is it about it that you like? What are you trying to achieve? These basic and it's more about like, it's not just understanding them, but it's also, he says, it's also a lot to do with the effort of trying to understand them. Where they see the effort where he's trying to understand them, all of a sudden they value his opinion as a producer much more because he knows that they're more likely to be on their team, like trying to get to do something that they like. So the effort alone is something that he finds, dare I say, financial value in, because now they're more willing to pay him for it.
Yeah.
And things of that nature. There's also a little psychological trick that I've noticed as well, where like people like to decide between two. So for example, with a mix, if they ever want any changes and I either disagree or more likely I want to take a different creative direction, I'll send them two versions. Or if they even if they have like a revision note that I don't quite know, like they said more reverb, but I don't quite know how much more reverb, for example, then I give them two versions. I give them one version that's more like subtle, or like what I think that they mean, and then another version where it's like more a different one. So then I give them two choices. And it's so funny, humans, psychologically speaking, if they're presented with two choices, they don't recognize that there's a third choice, which is neither.
Yeah.
So I actually tend to get less revisions when I give them two options to begin with. Hey, I got this one versus this one. Which one do you like? And oftentimes they'll just pick one. and it's kind of funny. That's a little psychological trick you can use in your next thing. It doesn't work all the time. I've still had people that still pick neither, but statistically speaking, much less likely to pick the third option.
I've had a mixer that presented that similar idea, but he took it too far in because there's sales books out there and all that, and they talk about presenting threes, good, better, best, but starting with best and then going down to, it's still good, it's just not as good. But the funny thing is, when he explained it to me for mixes like that, I was like, wait, so you're telling me that you're also presenting not as good of a mix as an option?
Wait,
Like,
wait,
this is a really weird pitch.
no, yeah.
No. I know in yours it's like they're both good. It's just one has more.
Yeah, one is like more
creative.
or,
It's
like,
it's a
different.
creative difference, but like the way he wanted to explain it was like, so this is best, this is better, and this is good. I'm like, why would you present it like that? You just like obviously told them like, I'm not gonna do as good if you don't pay me as much.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely weird. Has there ever been any time? Is there a specific instance, Mike, where the expectations were either too high or so different that it became something that was unachievable?
Yep. I've definitely, there was a few years ago, and I guess I'll just give this example as like the most extreme version. I used to advertise my services as having unlimited revisions, which just invites a certain type of artist, I think, sometimes. And I had one guy, and he was a producer. I think he was a producer for hire, who, was. Anyway, he had me mixing this song for this gal, and we had a pretty lengthy call beforehand talking about what all we wanted to do on the mix. But when I sent it back to him, he sent me back, 2 pages single spaced in a Google Doc of notes. And I was like, damn, okay, like, I guess this all makes sense to me. And it's just very verbose, it wasn't like, and so I went through everything meticulously. And I sent him back the next revision, and he hit me with another one like that. And that was one where I definitely just let it go. And I told him, hey, man, you got to sit down with somebody in person to finish this, because I don't think we can do this remotely. Yeah.
Was that something where at the time you didn't have the ability to like Zoom call and meet in person on the internet? You know what I'm saying? Or
Right. This was like when I first started, probably like 4 years ago or so.
in retrospect, yeah. So sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. In retrospect, do you think that was a matter of like pride on your part, or not being good enough at the time, or do you genuinely think it was just the artist's insecurities in retrospect?
It's a combination. In some ways didn't have. So he was one of these guys giving me very specific instructions about processing and
half a dB here and 2 dBs
yeah,
there.
exactly. So yeah, that was, I think, unfortunately he had, and going back just to the expectations, I set the expectations from the beginning as unlimited revisions, which he takes to mean I'm going to basically backseat mix this, which, it is what it is, man. I learned a lesson. Basically, yeah, but I don't really advertise that, and it never goes. I'll do a number of them on sometimes. Max it'll go. It goes. I just don't advertise it like that anymore, and I don't really have too many problems. Like, I'm happy to make small adjustments at the end, even if it's 1 or 2 small adjustments. Like I'm always happy to just, if it's basically just me moving a fader and pressing export, like,
Absolutely.
a couple more times of that, I have no issue, and I'm not gonna nickel and dime people for that.
Yeah, honestly speaking, 2 issues with unlimited revisions, and each one was uniquely very different. And one of them was that we took 9 months to mix an album, but I'm really, really happy with the end result. In general, it was my first major opportunity with some major people, including my friend. He himself was doing really well. At the time, I'm sure he's still doing well now, but at the time, like, he was at his prime. But because we wanted to make sure things were like great, it got to the point where we both burnt out on the album through the mixing, and then still finished the mixing. And then I didn't listen to the album for like a year, even after release. Like, on the day of release, I think I maybe played it once, and then I was like, cool. The second issue was they didn't understand what a revision was. They kept sending me new tracks and this and that, and this is where the communication really showed, which was that they told me that every time I sent them the mix, that new information became clear. Like, the bushes were being, shaved down, and some of the twigs were starting to stick out. And I'm like, Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Like errors and issues are going to stand out once the mix is cleaned up. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But he would send me like a new drum pattern and a new bass line, a new guitar line, and he's like, because this might sound better with your mix on it. I was like, well, that's not a revision. That's you're changing the production.
Right.
So I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
being clear on what a revision might be would have avoided that, because I do
Totally.
promote unlimited revisions. I basically call it my quality guarantee.
Yeah.
If the quality's not up to par, we'll fix it until it is. But
Yep.
I
Yep.
probably should have voiced revisions to the mix or the
Yeah. Yeah.
master, because he apparently assumed that that meant revisions to the music overall. And I was like, no, because then
Totally.
I could be mixing the same song for 20 years every time you change the drums.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting that you, Mike, don't advertise unlimited, but you still do. I mean, in this specific scenario, you got burned because you offered too many, but you
Yeah.
still do unlimited. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
there must be a
I-
reason behind that, right? And in the for background information, I also too offer unlimited, but I don't advertise it.
Right.
But
It,
what?
it goes a long way, I think, for just the client trusting you. I think there are a lot of there are a lot of it's pretty standard, I think, for engineers to say, I will do X number of revisions and this many number of revisions costs more. And I think artists sometimes feel like they get stuck with a mix that's incomplete because they don't want to go over budget. And but they also didn't quite get the last little changes that would really seal the deal for them. And so
Exactly.
I'd rather have a client come back to me and know what to expect next time in terms of, because the thing is like the more you work with anybody, just the less revisions there are, So I'd rather go above and beyond, do a couple of extra revisions for somebody the first time and have them come back and just know how to knock it out way faster the next time.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think, and this is something that you as a content creator, I think that this is going to be good too. What about setting expectations and communicating not directly but indirectly through your brand with your content and your posts? I mean, before we got on stream, you talked about how you create content that is clickbaity and algorithmic, like algorithmically viable, but maybe not as valuable, or finding the balance between valuable
Yeah,
information
yeah.
and things that actually like will be clicked on. How about like outward appearances, branding, how you present yourself on social media? How important is that as far as like setting expectations and communication before?
Oh, that's a good question, man. It's something that in terms of I think like the social media in all their forms now, except for Twitter, they're visual platforms, and so the way things look primarily in those first couple seconds that somebody is scrolling are almost the most important thing. And I think that's a big mistake that I see in people who are trying to promote their services through content. One of the bigger mistakes I see, I think, is just poor lighting, bad thumbnails, not necessarily thumbnails, but that whatever the first image is. If the first image is like your studio logo before it cuts to the video content, in theory, that seems like a good promotional video. But in terms of when somebody's scrolling through thousands of posts, if the first thing they see is a logo on when the video starts rolling, they're not going to stay on that very long. So it's important, I think, when creating content, to really focus on those first few seconds, even microseconds of what somebody's seeing when they're scrolling. Now, how that relates to the expectations that they're going to have of you, you just got to make it look clean. You got to make it look nice, and you got to come off as a nice person. You have to present. You have to be. It's like if you're making content where you're being mean, which is easy to do for algorithmically. You can go out there and start trashing things and talking shit, and that's going to perform really well. But it's not going to attract people that want to work with you.
That's actually really, I think that's a big gem right there. Because I've definitely had some friends where, not necessarily starting some beef, but like raise themselves up by stepping and putting down others, which seem to have short-term success or at least attention,
Yeah.
but backfired incredibly in the long run.
Right. It's I think when I when I first started going on TikTok, I started getting this sort of evil Sendai persona started coming out of me because you start saying things that are going to ruffle people's feathers a little bit, and it just retains viewership. People start fighting in the comments, and the videos just go crazy. But nobody watching that video is going to want to work with you, though. So it's a careful line to walk there.
The anti-Sendai.
So
No, honestly, it's true because a lot of the content that I've wanted to post in the past, I don't think would have always been well received because one of my personal, I guess you could say, pet peeves is when people speak in absolutes in a creative sense. Just as a typical one, which is always funny, right? Always roll off 80 hertz on the vocals. It's like, always? It's like, you don't do a vocal without a roll off. It's like, you don't? Like, what if there's nothing to roll off? Literally, throw an analyzer, see what happens. I don't know. But it's just kind of funny because I remember posting one once, and I just put it up like on a poll, yes or no, do you agree? And it ended up getting like 700 clicks on a story.
Wow.
The most I've ever gotten before that was like 100. I only have like 2,000 or something followers. I don't even know how many I have, but like it was insanely much more popular than I thought it to be. But then I also saw my DMs, and my DMs were like, well, I don't know why you agree with this view or not, blah, blah, blah. It's like, whoa, it wasn't anything to take personal. It's just, we're literally talking an engineering question. We're not debating religion.
Yo, I have a funny story about that, totally unrelated. I should not have done this. I learned my lesson. I posted something asking for opinions about a heated topic that I did not realize was heated because I was a brand new father to a son, and I was being dead serious. Did not recognize this as a heated topic. I was like, whether or not to circumcise my child.
Oh.
On Facebook. and it was like, and I specifically said fathers of Facebook, and no men replied. It was mostly just women, and it's just like, it was really heated. It was really, really heated unnecessarily, and I was just like, all right, I'm deleting this, and I'm like quitting Facebook for a while. Anyway, but I mean, like, as far as attention goes, it got me a lot of attention,
Right.
and I'm sure that
But it was also a short backfire along with it.
It was like, it was wild. I hated that. Anyway, coming back on topic, Mike, you have a lot of really great content on TikTok. I think that you post almost every day. You have about 12,000 followers on TikTok. You have a bunch of followers on Instagram and Twitter as well, all about producing and engineering, mixing and recording vocals. I mean, your last one on TikTok is